my goodness. Audience, we're here today with a very special author, entrepreneur, and my very favorite title, educator. There's not anything like an educator. I think the entire time we are here on this earth, we are here to learn and to share and to grow. I so appreciate Ms. Sarah McCrum and all that she does and all that she shares. Sit back, relax, open up to receive, and we're going to dive into her wonderful ideas of rounding this year out and preparing for the new year and how to stay committed throughout the new year to what we certainly claim to want to learn and do and achieve and all the things. Oh my goodness. Welcome. Sarah, take it away. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's actually an incredibly important topic, I think, perhaps more this year, even than it has been in the past, because it's been quite a year, and I think next year is going to be quite a year again. So we do need to, we really need to look at how do we manage ourselves? How do we stay on track? How do we stay accountable to what we really care about?
Do you have, Sarah, something that you do at the end as you approach the end of the year and begin setting up for the next 12 months?
I don't actually. I don't see life like that. I don't divide my life into sections. I don't feel that just because it's December and then it's going to be January, something's suddenly different. I never have.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry, that's like, it's probably not what I'm supposed to answer, but it's true.
No,
I just
I
genuinely
love this.
don't do that. I've never really seriously in my entire life engaged with a single New Year's resolution. I think they're a complete waste of time, because honestly, we make resolutions at those moments in life when we need to change something. There comes a moment where I know inside myself, it's like, I have to make a different decision now, because whatever I've been doing so far hasn't been working to get me to where I want to get to. It's not necessarily that it was wrong, but I need something new now. And that takes me to a place where I need to make a decision deep within myself. That might be about me being a different person, or it might be about me doing things differently or doing a different thing. And that doesn't happen on the 31st of December. That happens in the natural rhythm of life. We have ups and downs. It usually happens somewhere after you've got out of the bottom of a down, where things feel contracted or things feel difficult. That's for me always the growing ground. That's always where I know that the new stuff is coming out of. When I feel disappointed or I feel like there's something missing, that's a good thing, because then I know that I'm looking for something more. Those are the moments where I make new decisions, and I cannot control the timing. And I think when we try to impose our timing on that, we're trying to force the natural rhythm of life. That doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I don't really do that thing.
Right. Which, first of all, I love this so very much. I think that the more like this is going to help, it's certainly going to help me think about, I love flow, and think about, oh goodness, I am in the flow. Do I do both of these things? Meaning, am I quick to make an adjustment to do something differently if things are not going well? Because as what you're saying is so important, we must do that, whether we are people that make resolutions, set goals, try to time it out. First of all, we all know that's going to change because life changes. However, it is so important whether we do that as a practice we love, we must be able to make the adjustments whenever they are needed, to your point.
Because in a way, we're doing that in a small way every single day. You know, I sit down at my desk and I start doing things, and I'm having to make a decision. Do I keep doing this thing? Do I finish it? Or is there something else that's more important? Now I have to go to a meeting. Like, we're making those little decisions all the time, but then there are bigger ones, and then there are bigger ones, and then there are even bigger ones, and sometimes there are massive ones. And they're all part of each other as well, in a way. You know, the little decisions are part of the big decisions.
Of
So
course.
I tend to experience my life very interwoven like that. And the thing that I do though, always, I spent many years training with Chinese masters, and the Chinese have these beautiful ancient systems of understanding the energy, the predominant energy. So they have yearly cycles, and they have 10 yearly cycles, and 20 years and 100 years. And also they have 2-hour cycles and daily cycles, all these kinds of things. And they understand all of that in terms of, they talk about the 5 elements. So wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. But what they're really describing is how the energy changes from hour to hour, from day to day, month to month, year to year, and so on. And the year patterns, the year cycles, I find very interesting. So this year was what's called a dragon year in the Chinese system, which is a very strong year. Whichever way you look at it, dragon years are strong years. But I've always tried to find out near the beginning of the year, what are the main characteristics? What's the energy of this year that's coming? And I wish I didn't think of doing that before this. I don't know enough about it. I know that next year, I think, is a snake year. I don't really know what that means, what the energy of a snake is. I'd have to go and look it up. But I tend to know, I know for me that a dragon year is not an easy year, because my energy is the exact opposite. It clashes. I'm a dog in the Chinese life. There's a fundamental clash there. That means I'm more careful during a dragon year. You know, I need to make sure I look after myself more. I just take responsibility for myself, whatever the energy is doing. So I do like to have a little bit of a grip on the changing patterns from year to year.
I love that. So you will, before, is this, are they calendar years? Is this?
No, so the Chinese, they have their Lunar New Year, which is when they have their celebration, somewhere, you know, around end of January, during February. But the 4th of February is where the Chinese solar year starts. So that, and it's easy. My birthday's on the 3rd of February. So I'm literally the very, very last day of the year that I was born. I'm right at the tail.
Love that.
So always around that time, I will go and research a bit more about that kind of thing, or a bit in advance, so that I can, it just helps me to prepare my energy. Everything I do is about energy. And so that's my language.
I love that. So prior to your birthday on
Yes.
February the 3rd, you will have researched a little bit about the energy of the coming year.
Yeah, the overall characteristics of it. I'll give you a very good example. That year in 2016, where Brexit happened in Britain and Trump was elected in America, they were both totally surprising results. I was in Britain at the time of Brexit. No one expected it. And the same with the Trump election. This one was different, you know, it was much more predictable, but that time it was completely a surprise. That was typical. It was a monkey year at the time. And I remember at the beginning of the year, they said it's full of surprises, and they're not necessarily nice surprises. I mean, you know, some people like Brexit, some people don't. Some people like Trump, some people don't. So, but they're like shock surprises. Monkeys spring shock surprises that shift the whole system in a way. That was such a classic year. Those results, I don't believe, would have happened in another year, because the energy would have been
Interesting.
different. They were very much of their time, and I find that kind of thing really fascinating.
I do too. I actually am thinking to myself right this minute, I'd kind of like to have another call and talk about and look into the energy of next year, whether that's a snake or whatever it is. And so think about, because I think a wonderful question would be so interesting for you to share, okay, I know I'm coming off this dragon year and we'll be moving into maybe the snake year. And with that information in mind, is it just something you allow yourself to have, or do you say, oh, you know what, maybe I'll prepare this way or do these types of practices? Will you do
Me,
any?
that what I can share right now, at least, is what for me, what I look at is where there are likely to be challenges. I take those as like, I know that I'm going to need to grow in this area. So anything that feels negative about the year, maybe to me, to my profile, I will prepare myself to be able to just rise to the challenge rather than being beaten by it or feeling like life's attacking me or those kinds of things. It's so easy to go into thinking life's doing something to me. But if I have that bit of preparation, it's much easier to just say, okay, come on, put your boots on, Sarah, get on with it. I mean, I would do that anyway, but I find it helpful. There've been years when I've known that it was really important, for example, to just be peaceful during this year. It's the way to deal with the energies, to be peaceful. And I will pay attention to that during the year. I will remember that kind of thing and pay attention to it. So it's not that it tells me what to do. It's more like an anchor, because what we need, especially in these times, is anchors that help to stabilize us when we feel wobbled by everything that's going on in the world. Because everyone's feeling wobbled almost all of the time. And for me, it's really important to be one of those people who's actually not fundamentally wobbled. I can wobble on the outside, so to speak, but be stable on the inside. And
I so relate to that. It's okay to have a little wobbling go on, but be centered.
yeah, absolutely. We need that so much in the world. The more people who are centered and stable and can see the way forward, even when a lot of people are very, very lost and confused, that then the more likely we are to create good solutions out of really quite a big mess.
Well, that seems like an invaluable note that all of us, the audience, that we should all take into consideration is how to become centered and stable, whether it is for the coming new year or just the next day or just in life in general. To your point, where do we need to get stable? How do we choose to get centered?
Really, it's a whole lot of things. You don't have to do all of them. You will have to do all of them in your life. I don't think you can miss any of these pieces. So, we need a practice that centers us. Some people meditate, some people pray, some people relax. There are different ways of doing that, and you need to find what works for you. It's not actually what somebody else does. It's
Mm-mm.
what works for you. Some people paint, but something that genuinely, like where you would naturally use the word centered. I feel centered. I feel calm in my center. I feel like this is me. I'm occupying my own space. I'm not out there somewhere. I'm not confused and distracted. I'm not all over the place. All over the place is not centered. Overwhelmed is not centered. So calm and centered. I think a daily practice is essential, absolutely essential. And it's much more essential when the world is very uncentered. So that's one part. I think having a clear sense of purpose, which is built around your values, the things that you really care about. So for me, I personally like to have a sense of my soul purpose, which is kind of like, you know, what's my soul actually doing here? Why did he even bother coming and putting on this body and living in this world? And it could be out there free doing whatever souls do, unlimited, eternal, all that stuff, but it's here doing a very, very different thing from that. So I like to have a sense of what's really important there, but then I like to bring that all the way down into my business and my daily life, so that I have a sense of alignment inside me. And look, it doesn't, you can be doing a job, you can be doing, not your favorite job, and still be connected with your souls. purpose. That's been very important for me. Might not be something you can do today or tomorrow. It takes time to develop this kind of sense of, what are my values? What do I stand for in my life? What do I care about so much that I'll stand up and say, no, you can't do that around me. We don't do that here because this is really important. You know, is it about animals? Is it about well-being? It can be about all kinds of things, but to have something that you stand for, that's very centering, I would say.
Very centering. So regardless of crowd or fitting in and all the things, you feel very grounded. When we feel grounded as who we are and what we stand for,
Yeah, yeah.
we're able to, I think, make a beautiful impact, as well as when we're grounded, we don't react so quickly, and we pause
Yes, that's right.
and
That's right.
consider and process the information. And I
And we
say
have a
that,
way of making decisions. It's
yes,
like I can decide based on my values rather than deciding based on what my dad told me when I was 3 years old, or what all my friends are doing. But I'm not my friends, I'm me.
right, right. Well, I think what's interesting about this, well, so much, and I have so many questions, and I know we don't have much more time. However, when we think about rounding out this calendar year, I love that what you are reminding us of is this is a daily, each day we're rounding out a day and we are preparing for the next day.
That's right.
And if we have these huge dreams and goals and hopes and wishes, whatever those may be, because all very unique to each of us, what's important is we do need to find space to ask ourselves the questions: what am I doing here? What does ground me? What purpose? What do I stand for? And how tomorrow do I stand in that space? You know, is it something I read or take a walk in nature, or do I begin this meditative or prayerful practice? And do I practice that throughout the day or just in the mornings? But to figure out something, a practice that grounds us, that we can come back to throughout each day.
And just not to be afraid of not having the answers, not to be afraid of being in the curiosity, and not to be put off because your friend has just done something really successful, achieved something. Like, you know, we really, it doesn't work to be comparing ourselves with people at all. So I think we need to give ourselves credit for our own journey in life, which is different from anybody else's. And it really doesn't matter where you are compared to anybody else at all, because, you know, if you think of all those patterns and rhythms I was talking about earlier, there are all these rhythms going on, and you're just somewhere in one of those rhythms, and you might be on an up or a down, but it's just one of these things that's in the middle of lots and lots of others of those things. It just doesn't matter. What's interesting in life, I think, is getting to know yourself better, getting to be able to share yourself more generously, because it makes us feel good to do that. Getting to stand for something, have some values and really express them, because life itself is much richer from there.
Yes, it is. You said something interesting, and it does make us feel good. Um, when we do something for ourselves, which is what we were talking about, get to know ourselves better and be in integrity with ourselves.
Yeah, it's
That's really a gift to other people.
it
And
is. That's
when,
what people don't realize.
yes, and then when we are doing something for someone else, it is such it's such a gift to ourselves.
Yeah. And then when you do things for other people, you're not doing it to fill a hole in yourself. You're doing it because it's just a natural expression of who you are, your natural generosity, that human beings are made to share things with each other. We're born that way. And we can get past this kind of neediness of, trying to prove that I'm a good person or trying to prove that I'm somebody. See, we don't need that. Just
Yeah.
it's all right to be fascinated by yourself and by life and by other people, and find out who you are. Be constantly curious because it's always emerging. And then all these other things come out, like life becomes so much richer and more worthwhile living. And I feel more than ever that is, I see more and more people actually wanting a real life. They don't want anymore. We see this in politics. We see this expressed in the American politics at the moment. People saying, I want something real. I'm seeing the same in Britain. um, I'm British by birth. I'm seeing people beginning to say, we don't want all the government blah, blah, blah. We want actual, not old fashioned exactly, but just like real stuff that works in life. We want to be able to live with our
Yeah.
feet on the ground. We want our children to be safe and well fed and happy and the things that children need. We want good work. We want
The basic.
important, the basic but important things.
Yes. I love this so very much. And something that you said that I want to leave the audience with, and then please you leave your last message, if you will, with the audience. But you said, let's be um, excited about how fantastic each of us are and how fantastic this life is and can be.
Yeah, yeah,
We've got to fall back in love. We need to be curious and celebrate what makes us unique, actually.
yes, yes. I really, after many years of struggling in the ways that we all do to be this person and be that person, or try to make my business like somebody else's, or live somebody else's success in a way, it was all very hollow. And I come back to, in the end, I'm living my life, you're living your life. Here we are, we're intersecting with each other right now, influencing each other and influencing other people at the same time in a very simple activity. We're having a conversation. For me, this is where the richness lies. It doesn't lie in, I want to be famous, I want to be this. It's getting famous is it's like a bunch of conversations and sending some emails and doing something really well. It's made up of real activities that like quality interactions with each other. That's worth so much.
Oh, one conversation at a time, right?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
real conversation at a time. And I so appreciate what you have shared today. Maybe most of all is that you don't do the whole resolution, set up. I actually love it. You said, listen, that's why we have these conversations. There are no right and wrong answers. And this is to educate, my favorite. If we can educate and become curious and learn more about ourselves and one another, I think we will unite more.
I think so. I so agree with you. We don't need, like what I said, doesn't need to be true for you. Somebody else might be like, New Year's resolutions are the thing that work for me more than anything else. Once a year, I need a reset, and that's the way I do it. That's
Yeah.
great. I'm only saying what's true for me. But if we can understand each other and have different people in the world, we have a much more interesting life, actually. And we
Oh,
get the richness that comes out of our diversity and not needing to be all the same. So, yeah, I'm very much with you. And I feel it's an important thing in today's world that we make an effort to understand the people who we don't agree with, in fact.
ah, I love it. I think the more we learn about one another's differences and why and how'd you come upon that and become more curious, number one is I think that's the best way to become educated
Yes.
and less fearful and more accepting. So I am just so thrilled to have had this moment with you. I hope we can make sure I'd like to check back in, especially when you dive into a little of the energy that's coming forth in the next year. I'd love to have another conversation. And I just appreciate you. I know the audience, you've got everybody thinking and asking questions. Of course, everyone will receive all links and ways to get in touch with you and follow you and read more and learn more. Um, because you just have so much to share, and I just so appreciate your generosity.
Well, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to share this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, audience. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. No telling what time it is when you are hearing this. Thank you all.